Hi everyone, this is the 1906 diary series. It's cold here. I thought maybe the scarf would be overkill, but it's definitely not. Even though it's the 23rd of August. Crazy. So yeah, we have now officially skipped a month, almost a month. So the diary entries we did in the last two installments were both for this 26th of April, and today we go all the way forward to the 25th of May. So I hope Dmitri will slow things down a little. I hope he's not going to now catch up to us in August. Just for the heck of it, I brought a papacha that a friend brought for me from Russia many, many years ago. And this is what a Cossack would wear. I believe whenever there's this pattern on the top, the red with the cross, it's military, but I'm not 100% sure about that. So this is real wool. It's Astrakhan wool. You can see the nice lining. And it looks to me as though when Dmitri is wearing his uniform of the 2nd Guards Rifle Battalion, that the hat he's wearing is a papacha. But I don't know. Certainly this is what the convoy wore. The Nicholas's Cossack bodyguard in the plural, multiple men and officers. But there were lots of different kinds of Cossack hats, actually. They all had the wool, and some of them were quite wild. But this, I would say, is kind of the standard. It doesn't fit me. I guess it's gotten wet a few times and maybe shrunk, but maybe it would have fit Dmitri when he was 14. I don't know. So we've got an eventful diary entry today, and as in the past with some of the really long entries, I'll be doing it in 2 parts, and it is being written in Peterhof on the verge of departure for Ilinskaya, the country estate in Moscow. So that's one of the things that Dmitri is talking about. And if you remember in the last diary entry, he was not happy about being moved from Tsarskaya Selo to Peterhof. He was thinking it was going to be uncomfortable and it was going to be a complete bore, and he was longing to be back in Tsarskaya, where one of the activities he was doing was to fix the little train, the little child's train, outdoor train in the old playground, in he and Maria's old playground. And now, now he's that's been interrupted. He tore it up, but he didn't get a chance to fix it. But his attitude has changed, being in Peterhof for a month, as you'll see. And then the second part, so the first part, actually, he's talking about Ilinskaya, and then in the second part, we'll do 2 paragraphs. He is talking about what it was like for him in Peterhof. All right, so let's dive in. 25th of May. I haven't written for a long time. When I think about it, overall, it hasn't been boring for us here. I went kayaking with Uncle twice in quite strong winds, so it was terribly difficult to row out, and I must admit I chickened out. Tomorrow, Aunt is finally taking us to Ilinskaya. I'm glad to go there, but it's just terribly sad to leave here, and I don't want to think about tomorrow. At Ilinskaya, there are wounded soldiers everywhere. They're the favorites. Aunt has gone so far as to go boating with them, and they sing songs. I don't think that's appropriate. There are soldiers in the park, soldiers in the Angel, soldiers on the boat. So how are we supposed to deal with that? Everything is ruined and overcrowded. Instead of 12 soldiers like last year, there are 28 of them. 3 are living in the sweet house. There are also soldiers in the cottage where Joseph lived and soldiers in the lazarette. Uncle Nicky has been particularly nice to me these past few days. Is he really sorry that we're leaving? Everyone, Prince Orlov, Hayden, Komarov, Trubetskoy, they're all sorry that I'm leaving. At least that's what they say. And I'm very sorry to abandon them. God only knows when we'll see each other again. Who knows what will happen to us in Ilinskaya? The peasants might suddenly rise up and kill us. But what nonsense I'm talking. That couldn't happen. Okay, that's not the end of the diary entry, but that's the end of the first part. And let's see, starting with kayaking. Nicholas II was an ardent kayaking. He loved kayaking, and there are lots of photographs of him kayaking. And there's a description in the Fabritsky memoirs, the memoirs of Admiral Fabritsky, of him going out with his brother kayaking, and his brother doing like flipping off the kayak or jumping off the kayak into the water. So kayaking was big with him. So he takes his little ersatz son out kayaking with him. And they go out in strong winds. It sounds like, I don't know if Dmitri was exaggerating, but Nicholas was not terribly cautious, it seems. My friend Ed has told me about 2 incidents where Nicholas took Dmitri out to do groundskeeping kind of tasks with him at Tsarskaya Selo, and chopping up ice on the pond, and 2 incidents where Dmitri actually, the ice broke beneath him and he fell into the ice cold water. So, Nicholas wasn't always sort of putting safety first. And when Dmitri says that he chickened out, I'm not sure. So that would be the conventional translation of that word put into modern parlance. But does that mean he turned around and went back? Or does that just mean that he was scared while he was doing it? I don't know. But he's quite willing to admit that. So he brings this up as maybe in the context of something good. This is one of the interesting things I did while I was in Ilinskaya, but yeah, who knows? I don't know that he really enjoyed it. Maybe it was just maybe he just enjoyed being with Uncle Nicky. So what else? So apparently that's why he's sad about leaving, because of all these people. But let's get to that a little further on, and right now let's tackle this idea of why everything is ruined now in Ilinskaya. He's glad to go there, well, because he's spent or at least a part of every summer there since he was a small child. So it's like, a family that owns a vacation home that they go to every summer. But now everything is ruined because there are all these soldiers there. They are soldiers who were wounded, presumably in the Russo-Japanese War, and they are Aunt Ella's special project. Now that she has taken religious orders, and is a nun, and in fact is an abbess, the wounded soldiers are her special project. And in 1908, she will still have wounded soldiers around here and around her. And Dmitri, who is still in her custody in 1908, will be writing his now married sister's letters about how Aunt is still exhausting herself and she's still surrounded by these people. And I think there was an issue for both Dmitri and Maria with the fact that they're not the particular focus of their aunt's attention. The focus of her attention is these wounded soldiers. So, and as we know, Dmitri is shy around people that he doesn't know, and he doesn't feel like he knows how to talk to soldiers in the hospital, where when he's with his aunt, he's constantly going to these lazarettes, these sort of military hospitals, and he doesn't know how to talk to them. And so this familiar, happy family place is going to be overrun by these 28 soldiers whom he doesn't know, and whom he'll be expected to mix with, presumably, and it's just not going to be the same for him, and Aunt Ella will be more concerned with them than with him and with Maria. And then he makes this comment. This is this little proper fellow that we've gotten to know, who doesn't like it when small children misbehave, and doesn't like it when adults don't do what they're supposed to do in his mind. And so he says, I don't think it's appropriate for Aunt Ella to go boating on the Moscow River with these soldiers who sing songs. And yeah, it sounds like a nice time, and she is a nun, so it's not like a single woman or a widow going out with a group of soldiers. But the word he uses actually could and usually would be translated as indecent. I think that it's indecent that she's doing this. Well, maybe that's just a word he picked up. I don't think he's insinuating anything, definitely not. But he does think it is not appropriate. All right, so he talks about where the soldiers are. They're in the park, they're on the boat or boats, they are in the Angel. I have no idea what the Angel was. Apparently there was some feature at Ilinskaya that was called the Angel. Ilinskaya no longer exists. Unfortunately, that is to say, the village exists, or the locality exists, but the estate no longer exists. The building no longer exists. All right, so on we go, on we go. I don't know who Joseph was, who lived in the past tense in the cottage. And I don't know how big Ilinskaya was, so whether it will now be overcrowded with 28 soldiers, as Dmitri claims, I don't know. So let's return to the people in Peterhof that Dmitri is so upset about leaving. One, of course, is Uncle Nicky. He's been particularly nice to Dmitri. So Dmitri is always gauging how nice people are to him and whether they seem to want him to be with them or not. And he will continue to do that as an adult. And in fact, we have some very interesting text for today's entry on his diary entry of the 21st. And I think it's always interesting and useful to compare how he was at 14 with how he was at 29. And there are a lot of interesting parallels. All right, so Uncle Nicky has been nice, but then there's always this little element of insecurity with Dmitri. Is he really sorry that we're leaving? And then these various important figures at court, Prince Orlov, Hayden, Komarov, Trubetskoy. I didn't stop to look through my notes or to Google any of them, but Prince Orlov, they were all important people at court, and they were all part of the entourage of the Tsar and were almost always with them. So these, unlike these unknown soldiers at Ilinskaya, are people that Dmitri knows, or at least he knows them now after spending a month in Peterhof, and apparently they spent time with him, they gave him attention, and so he's sorry to be leaving them, and they have told him that they're sorry that he's leaving. They're all sorry that I'm leaving, at least that's what they say. There's that insecurity again, that little bit. So in the previous sentence, he had said about Nicholas, is he really sorry that we're leaving? So presumably both himself and his sister, both Dmitri and Maria, he wonders if Nicholas is sad that both of them are leaving. In the case of Orlov, Hayden, Komarov, and Trubetskoy, he says they are all sorry that I'm leaving. So, this makes sense that as a boy he would be spending more time with the male figures at court, and Maria probably more with the ladies. And then this very poignant part at the end. You know, this isn't just insecurity, this is actually fear, and it's not entirely ungrounded. God only knows when we'll see each other again, because who knows what will happen to us in Ilinskaya. The peasants might suddenly rise up and kill us all. Wow, that's a heavy thing for a 14-year-old to be thinking about. And we've heard in prior diary entries him talking about how strange it is that there are people out there, how strange it is to think that there are people out there who would want to kill him, and how he feels a certain discomfort of or heaviness in his soul when he's in Moscow, and how Grand Duke Paul, his father, had written a letter to Maria saying, I feel so much better knowing that you're in Tsarskaya because I worry about you when you're in Moscow. Well, the 1905 revolution was primarily urban, although I think, yes, there were peasant uprisings. I don't know if anybody was actually killed in the countryside, but yeah, I feel bad about this. I feel bad that there was this element of fear, even though he then immediately says, what nonsense, that couldn't happen. You know, he's old enough to understand how unlikely it is, but it's the fear of a small child that, yeah, the peasants are going to kill us all. So you can see what a big impact the 1905 revolution had on him, and on his sister as well, because I remember in her memoirs her talking about how she was practicing lacing up her boots quickly in case they had to flee suddenly. And, you know, trauma should not be left out anytime we're talking about members of the Romanov family who experienced it. And this almost unimaginable trauma of their uncle being blown to bits in the courtyard of the palace, and they went and looked out the schoolroom window and saw their aunt come out and start picking up body parts, and then they were brought by her into the chapel of the palace, and they saw this bloody collection of body parts under a soldier's greatcoat, that had been covered with, and their aunt was in tears. And according to Maria, she made this pledge that from now on she would be good to them, whereas she felt guilty about in the past having sort of not been being a bit resentful of their presence in the household and the attention they got from her husband. So this is real trauma. And when we're doing the 1921 diaries, we're also talking about real trauma. Not that Dmitri witnessed firsthand, as some of his surviving relatives did, but that he had, the knowledge of his father and his half-brother and Aunt Ella and various other people being basically slaughtered and losing most of his family in that way. So we always have to keep that in mind. And he also knew that his grandfather, Alexander II, had been blown up by a terrorist bomb like his uncle. And in 1913, his other grandfather would be shot to death by a sort of disgruntled person. So anyway, yeah, we'll leave it at that. Things are going to be very interesting in Ilinskaya, starting in the next diary entry, although tomorrow we'll be finishing up with this diary entry about the last day in Peterhof. All right, so do come back for that, and do tune in today for the 1921 diary entry, and I'll see you then. Bye.